Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Chileeeeeee Glam, and I'm here today to bring you the end part of Girlfriends, and this is going to be a semi-mukbang. So y'all, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Chileeeeeee Glam. And I just want to say, wear your mask. And it's real gloomy outside today, y'all. And it's cold. It's real cold. But anyway, y'all. So I'm here to give this as a part 2 of my Girlfriends review. If you hadn't, please check out my first video, which is covering seasons 1 through 4. As you know, Girlfriends had 8 seasons, so I'm doing seasons 5 through 8 today. I'm not going to be going season by season telling you. I'm just going to tell you the important parts that stuck out to me during that time. So, I don't know how they even stay friends with Joan, honestly. I just really don't. Joan was so annoying, and I found myself highly frustrated at Joan because she could just never make up her mind. She was always messing up relationships, and it was a running joke that she could never keep a man, which she couldn't. Okay, I do want to highlight the fact that I don't appreciate that they got rid of the original Jabari. How they gonna Aunt V of Jabari? They done Aunt V of Jabari. The little other boy, he was, fresh. We watched him grow up on camera. And then when they got about season 5, Lynn gonna make a joke the same way Will made a joke in Fresh Prince about, there's something different about you, Jabari. It's a whole different person. Anyway, so then, of course, we witnessed the demise of the friendship between Tony and Joan. I thought that was important to see because sometimes when you are friends with somebody for a long time, just like how Tony and Joan were friends for like 20 years, and then, y'all guys kind of grow apart and then there's like a big disagreement. There seems to be like, a breaking up of being friends. And literally, like, breaking up with a girlfriend, like your friend, is worse than going through a breakup with anybody that you were romantically involved with. Like, at least, like, for the most part, like, people who you are romantically involved with, I think a friendship is more of a deeper bond because you spend more time with this person, you've known this person longer, you've given them time, money, mental, emotions, social, like, you're giving them all aspects of your life. And then it's just like it's over with, and then you have to heal from that. So we got to see Joan struggle with the death of her friendship with Tony. Also, I honestly don't know how her and Tony were friends because Tony was quite complex. Like, Tony was selfish and self-absorbed, and it was crazy to see her go through, her whole thing with Todd because I felt like, to a certain extent, Todd was using his advantage, with him being white, to take the baby away from Tony. I do feel like in some aspects he was only acting like that because he wanted to be with Tony, but then him and Tony decided not to be together, which I felt like, that relationship was kind of doomed from the start because Todd wasn't necessarily, completely honest with Tony about his debt. But then again, like, Tony didn't give Todd a chance to get to know him. She just, was like, oh, a doctor, he's interested in me, I'm gonna marry him, I'm getting older. And so that's another thing, like I said from my first video, like, women, as time is progressing, women were socially put on this clock so where they felt like they had to be married, have a family at a certain time in their life, when in all actuality it doesn't happen like that for every woman. Some women are, get married later in life, have a child later in life. Not everybody has children in their 20s and early 30s. Some people have children in their mid to late 30s, early 40s. and even 50s. I mean, and it's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I mean, health wise, it would be wiser to have a child sooner, but like it has been done and it can be done. Um, Lynn, Lynn was coming in to find herself, and I'm glad by the time the show, you know, was going off, she got to find something that she really loved. She became a music artist, and she, was able to find like what actually made her happy. Because as you know, Lynn did tons of tons of odd jobs, and she couldn't find anything that made her happy. I was also finally happy to see Joan finally get engaged, even though she was engaged to Brock, but which I thought she was gonna get back with Brock, but she ended up not to. And I was like, thank God, because even though her and Brock loved each other and they had this enchanted love, as they called it, he didn't want children, and she would have been settling, marrying him, and he didn't want kids, and she did. Maya, of course, Maya was I like the character of Maya because Maya was a younger parent. She was the youngest out of the group. Of course, she had Jabari when she was 16. Her and Darnell got married when they were 18. And it was different to actually see like young love blossom on TV, because typically they don't really show young love blossoming. There was a time, which when a lot of people do have children that young and they get married that young, it is hard for them to stay together because you haven't gotten a chance to grow yet, you haven't gotten a chance to mature yet, and you're still trying to figure out what it is you do in life. And then you have this family, you get married, and then as soon as you're coming into everything you wanted to do, it's like y'all on two separate pages, because both of y'all are individually growing and y'all didn't have that chance to experience that because you got into a family. Not saying that it can't be done, but they eventually did find their way back together, which I'm glad, because you can tell on the show that both Maya and Darnell were not over each other. I did feel bad for Lena though, because Lena basically, I'm not gonna say she was the rebound, but she was there, I guess, for Darnell. She was kind of like Darnell's hero because he was getting over Maya, and I just hated that him and Maya had to go through that rough patch for 2-3 years to kind of figure out what it is they wanted and that they actually wanted each other. I briefly hit Tony, but I thought it was messed up how Tony let that girl intern for her, and then she ended up stealing her car and putting her baby in harm, and then filing an assault charge on Tony. And then Todd actually was going to use that assault charge toward Tony in court, not thinking about the fact that that girl actually did put Morgan in harm. I also like the fact that the writers show a perspective of somebody being in an interracial relationship. They showed Joan, she was engaged to a soldier, so they showed the whole thing about what was going on in Iraq. They also showed the whole thing with Hurricane Katrina in the later seasons. So I mean, in the beginning of the season, it wasn't, they had a variety of topics that they did talk about, but there was more of a cohesive storyline, towards the end of the show. It wasn't so much of them going out eating at restaurants a lot, because like in the beginning, they was at Skia a lot, they was at the Japanese place a lot, they was at the place that Davis owned a lot, they was at that little sandwich bar bistro thing a lot. They did in the later seasons go to like Maya and Darnell went to Chili's all the time, which I think they was actually putting Chili's on. I think they had a sponsorship with Chili's and Home Depot, because they was always in Home Depot, they was always in Chili's. But they more so focused them around being at each other's houses. Like they was at Maya's house, they was at Joan's house, they was at Lynn's house. And I appreciate the fact that, even though Lynn was kind of like blossoming somewhat later in life, they always looked out for Lynn. And I wouldn't say look out for Lynn, but like, I guess they supported Lynn or enabled Lynn, whichever way you want to look at it. And Joan ended up renting her house to Lynn, which I thought was cool because I'm just like, Joan can't use the house no way. I mean, might as well give it to Lynn. She ain't want to sell it because it was heir property. Her grandparents left it for her. So, what better way to give it to Lynn? I also like how they covered Maya's miscarriage. I thought that was important to see because, a lot of women deal with that and they don't, know how to handle it. They don't know how to grieve, and they showed like the grieving process and her going to the doctor, getting put on medicine. The different things that, women go through day to day. And how she wasn't dealing with it, and then it all like hit her like a ton of bricks. They also showed it how a miscarriage affects a guy. Darnell was very involved with the baby. This was his actual like first time, being there for the baby, because he said when they had him young, like he wasn't able to be around Jabari, because Maya was still living with her mom, so he wasn't there for everything with Jabari. But this baby would be different, but she ended up losing the baby. And then Maya having fibroids, which is brings awareness, because fibroids is a common thing among women in the Black community. So that's that. And then they also, with Joan, they show the support side of the military, because I know like there are a lot of wives and fiancés and just families in general who tend to sometimes struggle when their loved ones are away for long periods of time. So I thought that was important. Also, we got to see the success of the J Spot, which I thought that, she was going to end up closing down because she wasn't making her numbers. But then when William decided to flip her idea, which I thought was a good idea, even though it wasn't her like initial plan, it ended up making her very successful. I don't want to focus on the men too much with Joan, because it was just a recurring thing, and I kind of talked about it in my first video. So, I talked about support groups and how she raised money for the families with the kids and everything. That was also nice as well. And then, of course, Maya having 2 books with her authoress, she wanted to be an authoress. Oh, they briefly covered adoption, which was, an avenue Maya and Darnell wanted to go down because they lost the baby. And because Maya had fibroids, and with her having fibroids, her chances of having a successful pregnancy were lower. I think I covered almost everything. I want to talk about, in terms of girlfriends, girlfriends kind of ended like how Living Single ended and how Hanging with Mr. Cooper ended, which I was very like disgusted with that, because I'm just like, it always happens to Black sitcoms. But with their situation, it was a little bit different, because the show didn't necessarily get canceled because of ratings. It was just that around that time the writers went on strike, and so basically there was no cliffhanger that the show ended off on. The show just ended. And I felt like, once the writers came back, I wonder why Girlfriends wasn't able to get picked up by another network, because honestly, if BET picked up the game, BET could have picked up Girlfriends, no lie, because I think by the time the game went off air, it was in probably season, I want to say around season 4. The game went off air around season 4, 3, 4, or 5. And then BET picked it up, and then they went and had 10 seasons. So I feel like they could have definitely picked up Girlfriends. BET could have definitely paid for that. And they could have definitely figured something out, because Girlfriends was a good of a show. I did notice, like, in terms of me getting older and growing up, I've seen more episodes in the later episodes of Girlfriends versus the beginning. Like, I saw a lot of episodes with Tony, but it was more so toward the end of Tony's departure, which I also thought was strange because I'm just like, after all that success, Jill Marie Jones gave all that up, and then I don't even think her career really popped like she thought it would. I know for a fact, when Girlfriends ended, Reggie Hayes, the guy who played William, he said his career didn't even pop like he thought it would, and he was on the show for 8 seasons. So it was just crazy. Also, I did not think William was gonna marry Monica and that they were gonna have a family, because Monica was the shallowest of all of them. I really thought William was gonna end up with Lynn for real, no lie, like, because they had that whole they were friends, special friends, and then they was going back and they married each other as a joke. Like, I thought that William would be with Lynn. I didn't think that he would end up falling in love with Joan and didn't want to be with Joan and then getting back with Monica. They did the thing with Monica 3 times. Like, I was just like, can y'all please? Y'all could at least bought Yvonne back or something. But they bought back Monica, so I mean, I guess. But it was great to see how their friendship evolved as they were in their late 20s, and then they ended up being, I think, 35 by the show's end. So, life was changing for them, and they weren't able to hang out and, party all the time and do all that stuff because, life moves on. And I could definitely relate because I'm definitely in that area of my life where I'm not into, hanging out as much anymore. And I'm approaching 30, so I'm kind of like preparing for life now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get all my affairs in order, become an adult. So, but yeah, y'all, that's all I have for Girlfriends. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Did you watch all 8 seasons of Girlfriends? If so, leave a comment down below and tell me what you thought. And don't forget to watch my first half, seasons 1 through 4. I'll be back with more videos. Deuces.